Hello, everyone. I'd like to talk about the week one Epicurus review questions. One of the things that I do is instead of giving you individual feedback on your study question responses, which would be quite something considering how many students we have, to save time and to keep from being redundant and writing the same thing over and over again, what I do is that I look over the last week's review questions and I give you a general sense of the kind of answer that I was looking for. If your answers diverge from in an important way from what I say in these videos, then take another look at them, contact me, and we'll go over them together. Always feel free to contact me. All right, so question number one: does Epicurus ever say what death is? He does, in fact. It may not be immediately obvious where he says that, but let me show you what I have in mind. If I just take a few seconds to call out the text. Again, we're focusing, as you know by now, having read it, we're focusing on a very specific part of Epicurus's letter, which is basically the third paragraph of the letter, and not even the whole third paragraph. It's just so dense and so rich with uh, with important things said there about death. But if you look down to the third paragraph, where he begins to talk specifically about death, accustom yourself to believe that death is nothing to us, for good and evil imply awareness, and death is the privation of all awareness. That's it. That is, he does say what death is. He says it right there. Death is the privation, the taking away, the absence of all awareness. And if I remember rightly, the Greek uh, word that's being translated as awareness is aesthesis, which means sense perception, sensation, really. So awareness, consciousness, but sensation too, feeling, you know, is really a part of it. So he does actually define death in passing. That is, he says what death is. He says it right there that death is the privation, the taking away of all awareness. Number two, why does Epicurus think that death is nothing to us? Um, and there I would have to say you can also find, he says, accustom yourself to believe that death is nothing to us. Now, he does say that you should believe that death is nothing to us, but he really does believe that death is nothing to us. Not just that we should believe it, but that it is true that death is nothing to us. But what is the well? This answer, you could answer this in a number of different ways, and they'd all be correct. Um, but he explains himself right away. For good and evil imply awareness, and death is the privation of all awareness. That is, for something to be good or bad for us, to something to have any value for us, we have to be aware of it. That is a necessary condition of something having some value for me, good or bad, is that I'm aware of it. But death, being the privation of all awareness, um, means that I'm not aware of it. So, on that premise, that good and evil imply awareness, or good and evil require, you might say, awareness. Death can be neither good nor evil for me. It's not. It is therefore nothing to me. It has no value at all for me. Now, there are other ways you could have approached the question. Um, Death is nothing to us because, well, let's say, uh, you could have referred to this here at the bottom of the page. When we are, death has not come, and when death has come, we are not. It is nothing then, either to the living or to the dead. For with the living it is not, and the dead exists no longer. That would also be, I think, quite a good answer, or quite a good part of the text to focus on. When we are, death has not come, and when death has come, we are not. That is, there's no overlap in between us and death. We're completely separate things. When we are, that means death hasn't come yet. And when death has come, that means we no longer are. So, therefore, it's nothing to us. Seeing that with the living, it is not. When we are alive, there's no death. And when death comes, we exist no longer. That would also be, I think, quite a good part of the text you refer to. So if you're looking for the Epicurus's supporting reasons for his claim that death is nothing to us, those two places that I've specified in the text are probably the best place to look. Finally, question 3, Epicurus says, quote, when we are, death has not come, and when death has come, we are not. What does this mean? Well, that's an open question. I mean, not an open question, but that could be expressed in various ways, but I think it all more or less converge on the same meaning, and that is that human existence and death have no overlap. They have no intersection. That as long as we're alive, we're not dead. Therefore, death is not present in any human life. It's not a part of our experience. It's not a part of the world. The deaths of others are perhaps part of our world, but our own deaths are not. So when we are, death has not come. And when death has come, or when death has come, could have easily been translated that way. When death has come, we are not. So when death comes for us, we no longer exist. That's what death is, the end of our existence. So when we're here, death isn't here. And when death comes, that means we're no longer here. So there's no point at which we have to deal with death, really. There's no point at which we have to confront death, according to these premises. There's no point at which death is part of our experience. That's generally speaking what I think he means by that, and what he was getting at. So again, I prefer to do these videos because I did have a specific, or not a specific, but I had a definite range of answers in mind for these study questions, and it's important in terms of your writing of your papers in the final exam to have a grasp of, generally speaking, of what the right answer to these questions are. But I find that it saves a lot of time, and it makes a lot more sense for me to make these videos in which I go over the questions, explain the question, and explain what I take, what kind of answer I was looking for, and then you take a look at your responses, and you tell me, you were you on the right track? Are you going in the right direction here? Did you get the fundamental themes of the reading? Did you understand it? And please, if you didn't, if you find that there's a discrepancy between your answers, which there will be. I mean, there have been. I've looked at them. But I find it just makes a lot more sense to do it in this way, where I lay out what the right answers are, or what I take to be the right answers. And then you ask yourself whether you were close enough to that you could be said, well, yeah, I got that. If you didn't, and these videos don't really clarify things for you, or you want to discuss these questions further, please feel free to email me or call me, and we'll go over them in detail.